You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
X-Men. Get it!
Hey everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of Battle of the Atom. This is your weekly X-Men podcast where we rank every story from A to Z.
I'm Adam.
And I'm the bad boy of X-Men podcasting with a werewolf inhabiting his skin. It's Zach. Hey, Adam.
Hey, Zach. I'm really glad you're here. I heard through the grapevine that there was going to be a new co-host this week, and I'm glad to see that's not the case.
Yeah, no, I thought I was going to have to get sent into space to get my... What am I? Brood? No. Werewolf. Werewolf parts rejiggered, but nope, I'm good to go.
Really glad that worked out for you, Zach. You know, you didn't get replaced by, Michael Jenkins or anything like that. You know, your hair still looks like it's in place.
Hey, fun
Doesn't
fact.
look pointy.
Fun fact about Michael Jenkins. Because I don't love my middle name, and it's one of those middle names that's not like the most common, so people ask questions about it. Anytime anyone asks me my middle name, I say my middle name is Michael,
even though it's not
Michael. You guys can know all of my names, but you can know that my middle name is not Michael. That's great. Know. It's not a big secret. It's just like one of those little things that's annoying but isn't a big deal, but it happens to you so much that you're like, I'm done with this.
Amazing. Wow. Well, if listeners haven't picked up on it, our theme this week is Headmaster Magneto.
Honestly, I don't know how listeners would have picked up on it. We have gotten woefully esoteric in our time. Even when we are making mainstream pop culture references, some of our co-hosts don't understand what I mean.
Are you talking about how last week you mentioned a prominent hockey player, and given that I do not watch hockey, I did not pick up on this?
I mean, it's Alex Ovechkin. I don't know how you didn't pick up on this, Adam.
Zach, the news, you could name the top 10 hockey players in the world.
I named number one. I named number one, and you didn't know. I don't have to name 2 through 9.
So Ovechkin is the number one. Ovechkin is the number one hockey player in
Alex
the entire
Ovechkin
world.
He's scored more goals than anyone, including Wayne Gretzky. Now, to be fair,
we don't need to talk about Wayne Gretzky.
I'm a man who has an Aaron Rodgers jersey and a Brett Favre jersey. You don't have to. I get it. I'm just saying. The man scored a lot of goals, and you can't take that away from him. Like all the other stuff is true. He did score a lot of goals, and all I'm saying is now Alex Ovechkin has scored more than him. Do I know Alex Ovechkin's personal politics? No. Do I want to know Alex Ovechkin's personal politics? Not really. I've learned I don't want to know that about any sports player at this point in my life.
Yeah. I mean, hey, I'm proud of you for knowing this information. I am sorry that this is completely outside of my realm of understanding. I just don't know anything about hockey.
I feel like as a seasoned educator as you are, you should be open to these new opportunities to learn things.
I did. I just learned something. And today we're going to teach and learn a little bit more about the time after Inferno where Magneto basically took over the Xavier school, and we have to thank who for this wonderful theme of the week.
Oh, we got Andrew Holmes, don't you know?
Hey.
If people want to be like Andrew Holmes, who's a great Patreon supporter, you can all go down to patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. Reach deep down into your hearts and pocketbooks and toss a couple of coins straight into our respective coffers.
Mm-hmm.
If you do that, we'll do a whole episode based around one of your fine suggestions. You know what? I'll tell you. I'm not going to name names because I'll forget about this by the time the episode actually comes up. But there's one patron who has been making many suggestions that have all been denied for one reason or another. And that's very rare. But I'll tell you, the beauty of it is when that patron cracked the code. They figured out what they wanted us to talk about that aligned with things that we would actually talk about on this podcast. They tried to break the podcast. It's fine. I would do the same thing. I've done the same thing. It makes sense.
We appreciate
game
it,
understands game.
Yeah.
But the amount of sheer joy that I got when we found it, when we cracked
Mhm.
that code,
Mm.
buddy, I hooted and hollered when that happened. And folks, if you want to make us hoot and holler, Patreon, baby, it's $5. Comics cost more than $5 at this
It's
point.
true.
And
Yeah.
comics don't pay me. So, or Adam even, I don't think.
No, not currently. But we are going to start at a time in our history when comics cost all of 65 cents. That's right. We are starting off with New Mutants Volume 1, number 35.
This is a comic written by the one, the only, the GOAT, Chris Claremont, with pencils by Mary Wilshire. And
Mhm.
you know we got that Bill Sienkiewicz on inks. I love
Yeah,
Bill's
and
inks. I
we
love
should
Bill's
start.
inks.
We should start by talking about the art because Wilshire is doing a more traditional style. It almost kind of has the look of it's not a house style. I would say it almost lines up with like a romance comic in the way that it's drawn. But
So
Sienkiewicz is bringing that Sienkiewicz flair.
Mary Wilshire, probably best known for people listening to this podcast as
Mhm.
the artist on Firestar.
Yes, which I think I said similar things about when we talked about that on this show.
Absolutely. Probably best known globally for Marvel's Life of Christ Volume 1, Number 1, and its sequel, Life of Christ, The Easter Story.
Holy mackerel. What a
Hey,
resume.
bud, you want to know who wrote The Life of Christ and The Life of Christ, The Easter Story?
Please say it was Chris Claremont.
No, it was Wheezy, baby.
Oh no.
Look,
Okay.
look.
A paycheck is a paycheck.
Sometimes,
Happy Easter.
yeah, sometimes I forget. Yeah, Nielsen, the Nielsen Publishing Corporation, who you might know from Bibles.
Mhm.
Their big Bible is what they are. They teamed up with Marvel Comics at one point to do a bunch of religious comics in the 90s, and Marvel said, "Whatever, their cash works." So between issues of Barbie, Mary Wilshire was doing that.
Great. But they make a good combination here because you have a more straightforward storytelling style and it's being embellished by Sienkiewicz. So one of the things I did think was really interesting is the way that Wilshire tries to interpret Warlock, which is by doing Warlock as more or less a person in disguise, but Sienkiewicz keeps scribbling around the margins to make sure we realize it's Warlock.
Which is a great dynamic. Wilshire does understand Warlock. The first time he really appears, he has two hair dryers, one of which is real, one of which he's turned his body into a hair dryer to dry his hair. Cannot emphasize enough that this boy is not organic and doesn't have hair. Mary Wilshire also draws Cannonball with a red ball cap, and that's unfortunate.
Well,
For all
it was a
involved.
different time. So as I said before, this is from the era when Magneto takes charge upon Xavier's request. This is after the trial of Magneto to, essentially take over the Xavier Mansion. He's going to be leading the New Mutants in their educational pursuits and occasionally be mixing it up with the X-Men. It's a weird time for Magneto, who's going through this redemption arc.
The thing that I don't like about Magneto is that when we think of Magneto as a headmaster,
Mm-hmm.
many of us will think of his slutty little M costume that he wore at his trial.
Sure.
With the whole
Deep
cutouts
V.
like he's going to the gym.
Yeah.
He wears that, but he takes away both the giant M and the cutouts. So what's the point?
Yeah.
It's not a good costume to begin with. We just remember it, but it's not good.
He also has a very dashing blue suit in his teacher persona here as headmaster. So, he's looking pretty slick. But his first thing on his to-do list is essentially to take the New Mutants to the Danger Room and kick the crap out of them.
He says, "Okay, fight me." Which, Adam, I'm curious again as an educator.
Yeah.
Is this good praxis?
Here's what I will say. It is in keeping with the teachings of Professor X. Professor X, don't think he originally intended the New Mutants to be child soldiers, but inevitably started training them as such and always had them in the danger room. So it's not that far off of the curriculum to have Magneto bring the New Mutants in and say, yeah, try and kill me.
Let's talk about what Magneto does in one page when fighting the New Mutants.
Yeah.
Karma is like, well, this is easy. I can possess him. And he's like, you fool! Your power is formidable, Karma, but not foolproof against one with proper psychic training and sufficient will to resist. And what he does is he reflects her mind control powers onto Bobby with magnets.
Sure.
He then traps everyone in a box, which is something you could do with magnets. You could trap them all in a metal box.
Yeah, that part.
But Wolfsbane gets out and tries to attack him, and he's like, not for long. Behold what occurs when I generate sufficient power to effectively reverse gravity. Gravity doesn't work with magnetic fields at all. We don't know how gravity works. That's the weird thing about physics. We know gravity exists. We think we know why, but we don't really know why gravity works.
Hey, Zach, you know who knows how gravity works? The one and only Magneto, because he's doing it, man. He's flipping it.
He's flipping it. So the New Mutants are mad and decide, forget this, we are going to the bar.
Yep, they're headed over to Harry's. Bobby in particular has real beef here. He does not believe that Magneto can, be a good guy. He's just not happy about this entire situation. So they all go out. They're all, just hanging out at Harry's, which I don't know how they're hanging out at Harry's as it's a bar, but,
I mean, as depicted here, it's like a family restaurant, bar and grill.
Yeah.
Which I don't think is the historic depiction of Harry's Hideaway.
No. And then we get into a darker aspect of this story, which is that several
ne'er-do-wells,
sure. Stalk Danny and attack her. Does look like some bad stuff's about to happen before Brightwind shows up. And, upon hearing about this, Magneto decides to open up a can of whoop ass on these frat boys.
So here's the thing about Magneto. I'm not saying that it's good to hold the world hostage with nuclear weapons. I'm not implying that we should, I don't know, another bad thing Magneto's done, really. It's just that. Do an apartheid on an entire island, but like a reverse apartheid. We shouldn't do that either. Magneto works, and we let him get by with all of that bad stuff because sometimes Magneto's going to see somebody do a bad thing. Like, I'm really sorry, but I'm going to destroy you in a way that none of the heroes will.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to absolutely give you the just desserts.
This includes not only turning the assailants' weapons of a crowbar, a gun, and I guess nails from the floor against them.
That guy was just running up Magneto with his fist. He improvised. He was like, well, there's nails right here. So your floorboards are screwed, by the way. On top of all of this, you gotta get new flooring.
But he also goes so far to literally explode their home and then I guess zoop it back together. And of course the New Mutants are watching all of this going, oh snap, this guy's on fire.
Magneto does not tell them about this, by the way. Magneto, they find sipping cognac in his study, in his smoking jacket, and being like, oh, isn't it past your bedtime, students? I don't know. I'm Magneto. I'm very, very cool and brave and the coolest dude out there. Cheers, portrait of Charles that hangs in here. Which, by the way, Magneto didn't have time to redecorate. And that just means that Charles had a framed photo of himself, a very large one, prominently portrayed in his study. And Like, it makes sense, but it's
That
like,
tracks.
Chuck. I
Yeah.
don't have any pictures of me in my. No, I do, but technically, my son is in that picture as well, and it's more a picture of us, not a picture of me.
There you go. It's not a portrait of you.
No, I
This
don't have
is
any portraits of me in my office. I'm looking around
no,
right now.
no. That's a good thing. That would be very egotistical.
It'd be wild if I did. That's why it's a weird thing for Charles to do.
Yeah.
Hey, Magneto's pretty cool.
Magneto's very cool. He's making a not a great first impression, but a great second impression. And it's, what's a shame about this is that, it has to involve like threats of sexual violence against Danny Moonstar, who is clearly shaken up by this and has had a very rough time as a character in this book thus far. That said, it does allow Magneto to show who his allegiance really lies with, so that the New Mutants will start to trust him.
Yeah, it's one of those things that in a vacuum, it's a story beat. It's an unfortunate trend that continues heavily in genre fiction and generally in fiction. But on one hand, Danny's still Danny throughout all of it. Like, I think she like bites a guy and makes him bleed as they try and fight or try and attack her before Brightwind shows up. Like, she is 100% Danny, and I do appreciate that.
Oh yeah, it's not that she loses her agency.
It's just yeah. It's
she's shaken up more than
it's a
anything else.
distasteful situation.
Yes, but it allows Magneto to have his moment, and it's an interesting start to an era where Magneto should be probably more prominent than he is. And I want to kind of get into that with our next story, but we should rank this one first.
Yeah, we should rank this. Adam, you speak of this ranking. Would you like to tell our listeners what this ranking is? Or I guess I normally do that part of the show, don't I?
Well, we do have a big old list, and it's got
a big old list.
1,026 X-Men stories on it that we're ranking from best to worst.
There's too many X-Men stories. We've ranked them from best to worst, with the best being the House of X Powers of 10, the 250th best being X-Men Legacy, the Necrosha tie-in, the 500th best being X-Men The Fall of Avalon. That's right after the Age of Apocalypse. That's where Rusty dies. The best comic where Rusty dies. I'm gonna say that flat out, number one with a bullet. Best comic where Rusty dies. At 750, we have X-Men Blind Science. Number 1000 is The Legend of the Dark Claw. And the worst X-Men comic of all time is 2099, The World of Tomorrow. Adam, we've got some New Mutants on here.
We do. And at 301, we have the time that Sam brought Lila home to meet Mama Guthrie. And I would venture this is better than that issue.
That's at 301?
Yes.
Let's see. Okay. Yeah, that puts it above X-Men Power Pack. We do have the unfortunate placement of Madripoor Knights at 299. But we have to move on past.
Just have to ignore that.
We have to. You and me cannot bring this up every week.
No,
I can't bring this up every week. Okay, I'll take that one. I'll take it.
Just breaking hearts,
breaking hearts, breaking minds. New Mutants 52 is at 273. That is another Magneto Headmaster story with him and Ilyana.
Yep.
I kind of think that story overall is better than this one.
I agree. I don't think I was going to go that high. I think this is probably.
This isn't better than Generation X -1 at 270.
No. I don't think it's that high, but it's like I like it better than Uncanny 245 Men at 284.
I don't, because Uncanny 245 has the Gene Bomb, which I find very. I'm a sucker for a bar issue. I'm a sucker for a bar issue.
I think it's better than the Rogue miniseries that's right below it, though.
See, I would go just a little bit lower than that. I think this is better than 288, the first arc of Cable and X-Force.
Agreed.
But not as good as the Tim Seeley Shatterstar at 287.
I'm fine with that. So this is going to be our new 288 New Mutants Volume 1, number 35. And Magneto does hold his tenure as Headmaster for quite a bit. So that's going to take us to our next entry here, which is New Mutants Volume 1, number 75, with writing by Wheezy Simonson, penciled by John Byrne, and an interesting combo here. John Byrne with Bob McLeod on inks.
Yeah. Hey, Adam, do you know what this issue is titled?
I believe it's called King of the Hill.
Okay, I'm done.
Good job.
Sorry. I've been watching King of the Hill recently. It's the problem is I would prefer to watch Bob's Burgers, but my wife likes to watch Bob's Burgers with me when she wants to watch Bob's Burgers with me, which is not often, which means that I can only watch Bob's Burgers with her, but I can't watch it as much as I want to, which means I need a different low effort show.
This is complicated. Wow. Okay.
Man, you'll learn. You'll relearn. Marriage in the 21st century? In the 20 whenever we are? It's a wild thing.
Hey, listen, any relationship involves compromise and sharing. So I'm glad you guys are figuring that out.
Do you know what else involves compromise and sharing?
Being part of the Hellfire Club's leadership structure.
You got there. You figured it out. You see where I was going to tie this all back in. Because after Inferno, the New Mutants with little baby Ileana go back to the school and are like, oh, wait, it blew up.
Where to school? It's not here.
This is where all of our things were.
Yeah.
Danny sees a death glow and she's like, oh no, someone's dying and it's Sabretooth, and they kill him.
Well, he's kind of dying anyway after he tries. Do they kill him?
Yeah. No, he's dead.
Okay.
In fact, Warlock says, so friends, Sabretooth is dead, which is wild. It feels like John Byrne just wanted to draw Sabretooth again.
It's really
I know
strange.
He was in Inferno, but I think John Byrne just wanted to draw Sabretooth.
Yeah, I guess. We should probably mention that John Byrne hadn't drawn X-Men in a while when he did this.
It's 1989 here. So John Byrne is still, well, no, this is post Man of Steel John Byrne.
Yeah. I guess the biggest thing that he had done really close to this was a run of Starbrand, and before that his Fantastic Four run, but he's also just getting started doing Sensational She-Hulk, so it's really wild that he does this issue at all, and it's very strange that he's paired with Bob McLeod, whose styles do not match. This is
right at the same time that he was writing West Coast.
Yeah.
So okay, this is him getting back into Marvel after leaving Superman. Okay. I don't know my entire John Byrne history, much like Magneto.
Yes. Who has been suspected of some wrongdoing for some time by his pupils, the New Mutants, because they've seen him wandering in and out of the Hellfire Club's headquarters, and they're really wondering what is going on. And this is the issue that I guess was supposed to lay the groundwork for Claremont's eventual Mutant War crossover that never happened.
See, I don't even know how much of it is laying the groundwork, because what this feels like to me, because what happens is Magneto fights Sebastian Shaw for leadership of the Hellfire Club. That's
for a long time with a lot of word bubbles. It's almost surprising that this is not a Claremont comic.
I don't know how much of this is Wheezy trying to make all this stuff work, because what really happens is Bob Harris has said, this isn't the way that I want X-Men to be. This isn't what people think of as X-Men. We need to bring it back. We need to get things back to when X-Men was really popular and what people think of as X-Men. So we need to undo all of this character development and all of this complexity, and we need to just do a hard reset here. So Magneto, it turns out he was lying about all of the being a good guy stuff, and is actually secretly has been evil this whole time.
And guess what? It lands with a thud, because it doesn't really line up with what we have been seeing for several years worth of content.
Hold on. Are you telling me that heavy-handed editorial mandates to revert back to the status quo after character defining events that were both wildly popular and well done? Are you telling me that perhaps that's a short-sighted and foolish decision that one could make, even accepting the fact that these are stories that need to continue forever because the capitalist IP machine must stay fed? You're telling me that it's very difficult to put the genie back in the bottle.
Well, in this case, though I love, your insinuations, and
I'm
you are
insinuating.
correct.
I'm talking about Spider-Man's marriage. What are you talking about? I'm just kidding. As we all know on this podcast, I don't care about Spider-Man's marriage.
Good. Yeah, the bulk of this episode is just Magneto and Sebastian Shaw in a fist fight, and Magneto really going at lengths to talk about how he was doing all of this so that he could become the leader of the Hellfire Club, and he could train the New Mutants to be his like new disciples, apostles, whatever they were going to be. And the New Mutants are like, yeah, no thanks. We're trapped inside a metal ball you put us in. So can you just, maybe let us out and
We'll
go
never join you.
away?
You're evil.
Yeah, like it's very Saturday morning cartoon. It's not helped at all by Burns' art here, which feels very old fashioned with Bob McLeod's inks.
I know I'm not the first person who said this, but I remember saying it on this podcast, is that the thing about Terry Austin specifically is he has the uncanny ability to make anybody's art look like John Burns.
And or just better in general.
Yeah, but specifically Terry Austin not drawing John Burns art actually makes it not look like John Burns art, because we only think of the John Byrne, Terry Austin stuff. I know other people think about other John Byrne comics, but I sure as heck don't.
Yeah, it's a weird combo. Anyway, so this comic does not work.
There's one thing that does work, and I'm going to say this as a notorious hater of this
shaming
character.
Sebastian Shaw.
Well, obviously, always shaming Sebastian Shaw. That's great. The thing that works, I think, really well in this is when the Hellfire Club has to take a vote on everything, on if Shaw's going to be their leader or not. And Selene is standing there. She's the deciding vote. And Selene doesn't care about Magneto. She doesn't care about any of this stuff. And Emma's like, but without Shaw's interference, you'll have a free hand among your Amazonian holdings. And Selene's like, puts her thumb to the side, and then drops it down. It's a fantastic, like, visual storytelling, because it's the whole like repeated panels thing, but with slight changes. Like it really lands here. It speaks to the Selene that I think would have been an interesting character in the 80s if she was written well. And I like it. That works for me.
She's like, I get to eat more people in my volcano lair. Fantastic. Gives the Emperor thumbs down. It's great.
Selene's all right because she's Roman, or she's pre-Roman, but she's Roman.
Sure. She's an external, Zach.
Look, man, I've said it before and I've said it again. You can't make me care about the externals.
we just highly regarded an external story, like,
and we said that it was good in spite of the externals. It was good because they were mini bosses. That's it.
Yeah.
You can't make me care about external politics. The best thing that happened in Krakoa, not the best thing, one of the best things, was Teenie Howard also knowing that no one cares about the externals. Let's make them into a bone gate to a magic world. And that was better.
That was fun. So the conclusion of this means that Magneto is now both kings at the same time. So he is now the Gray King of the Hellfire Club. This doesn't actually last for very long or lead to anything. So it's very anticlimactic.
What does Magneto do after this? I mean, he like
end up in the Savage Land.
Yeah, he does the Savage Land thing, and then Chris Claremont has to make him like keep up the full evil thing. And even then, like, here's the thing, Magneto's not doing anything wrong here. What did Magneto do that was evil? What did he do that was wrong in this entire time? Nothing.
Yeah.
He beat up Sebastian Shaw. He's like, well, I have to prepare mutantdom for the upcoming mutant war. It's like, whatever. Okay, fine, Magneto. Cool. But that didn't happen, so I don't care.
Yeah. So this one's a dud.
This one
I think,
sucks real bad, actually.
yeah, I'm looking much lower on this. The New Mutants fight Magus is down by 601, and I think
Oh,
that's
this is
better.
way below that.
This is
Here's the
better
thing.
than that.
I'm gonna throw something at you.
Yeah.
How do you feel about this compared to Wisdom Max?
Which is at
840.
okay. Well, just two below that is the Gladiators Karma arc of New Mutants, which we've kind of flagged for some of its
Because it's
less flattering choices.
it's also a weird Shadow King and Gladiator story. Like there's more than just weird stuff happening in there.
Yeah. I would say, despite not liking Wisdom Max very much, I mean, it's still a better comic than what this is. I don't think this is very good.
Okay, I agree with you. Actually. I think I am going to make Adam say something. I think Kings of Pain is better.
Oh, that's tough. I don't know about that. Well, right above King of Pain is Curse of Mutants, Storm and Gamut, and that at least has the decency to have some Chris Pachalo art in it.
Yeah. I'm going to win this one, and you know it.
I know.
You know it.
I'm looking
You're
down the
feeling it.
list. I'm looking down the list. God.
Days of Future Past Doomsday is better than this. That's an insane comic.
It's more fun. I don't know if it's
Yeah.
better.
It's
This
not
is
worse.
This is better than X-Men Hidden Years, though, 6 and 7, which is below that. Hidden Years has nothing to give us.
I don't know if I agree, but I don't want to argue it any further. Like I don't care enough about which John Byrne comic is slightly less bad to argue it one way or the other. So I'm fine with putting it at 885.
Yeah, this one just doesn't work. Now,
It's bad.
yeah, listeners maybe
super
can
aggressive. I hate it. It does that thing that I really do hate. It's a cowardly comic. This is, and I don't put this on Wheezy. Again, Wheezy, you did very little wrong. Bob Harris is a coward, and history will remember him as such.
Dang, harsh.
Tell me I'm wrong.
I'm
Tell
not.
me we don't.
I'm not arguing.
Tell me that we don't say crap about Bob Harris consistently. Jim Shooter doesn't even get that bad of a rap. At least Jim Shooter put out some good stuff. He was just a pain in the butt to work with, which is not an insignificant thing. But Bob Harris was worse as an editor.
So, Bob Harris aside, listeners may be confused. We just did the first Headmaster Magneto issue and the last one. So what is our last? Well, it turns out Magneto has served in a leadership and Headmaster-esque position again to another group of young mutants. And that was in a little book called X-Men Blue.
This is X-Men Blue, written by friend of the show, Colin Bunn, with art. A wild art team on this. We got Jorge Molina on a couple of issues. We got RB Silva on a couple of issues. We got Marcus Toe on a couple of issues. Listen. X-Men Blue editorial team from the past. I know this book was coming out bi-weekly, but I'm just going to say it. I like all three of the artists on this book. This arc would be significantly better if any one of those three drew every issue. I don't care which. I care which. I have my own personal headcanon rankings, but all of them are like really good artists. But none of them have the time or space to do their best work on these issues. And that's really disappointing to me.
So just to be clear, we are talking about an arc called Cry Havok. And this goes all the way from, what is it, 23 all the way through
to 29.
29. Oh, 28. Sorry.
It's 28, yeah.
Yeah, and Colin had just gotten done an arc of stories where we had to deal with space venom, and I remember from our conversation with Colin years ago that sounded a little editorially mandated.
They
or heavily suggested.
Cullen Bunn, and this is, I don't know how true this is, but it feels true just reading his oeuvre of books. Cullen Bunn was a guy who didn't say no to anything at Marvel. Like, if anyone said, hey, can you work this in? He'd say, yeah, I'll figure it out.
Mhm.
Like, Blue wasn't a book that, he said it on the show, Blue wasn't a book he wanted to do.
Mhm.
He didn't want to do the 05 book. But it was that or not have a book. So he was like, well, I do want to keep a job. I do like my paycheck. So he wrote this. In Cry Havok feels like one of 2 arcs on this series that Bunn actually got to do the X-Men stories that he wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
And quality aside, that comes heavily through in this because it feels different than a lot of his other stuff on Blue. So let's get into it. Adam, X-Men Blue was the 05 book, correct?
Yeah, but notably the 05 are not, there are a couple of little vignettes of them in space as you go through this arc, but the majority of this story, they're not in this at all. So we're dealing with Magneto's B team, and we're really seeing Cullen's fascination with Ultimate X-Men.
Specifically late stage Ultimate X-Men, specifically tying into the Ultimate Wolverine miniseries that he did with Jimmy Hudson and Mothervine.
Yep, Mothervine is essentially the core of what's happening here because Havok, who has been flipped via Axis, has teamed up with White Queen, Bastion, and am I missing somebody? Who's the other like major? Is it Selene? It is Selene, right?
No, it's not Selene.
No, not Selene.
It's Miss Sinister.
Oh, Miss Sinister. I'm sorry, they look very similar.
Yeah, I get it. They're both
Selene
goth
fans
models,
don't come
understand.
after me. Yeah,
if Selene was a little paler.
So
like,
Mothervine is going to be released into the world, and
Mothervine gives you secondary mutations. So
right, but they're out of control.
You just listed some insane characters to be teaming up, so I do think we need to give a small amount of context because Adam, you do remember the 4 characters you just said all teamed up, and think about any reason why all 4 of them could team up.
Yeah, it's really weird, right? But Cullen Bunn does make it work because Havok is flipped and has convinced Bastion that the only way he can commit more mutant genocide is if he has more mutants. So
listen, the robot logic is sound on this one. And that got established earlier in the series. So I buy it. It's very funny that that's happened. Emma, and this is, speaking of editorial flip-flopping on things, this very much feels like everyone got in a room and, a year and some change into, or post just a year and a half after IVX. So so no one buys Emma being evil, right? Like, we tried it for an arc or so and it just, no one is into this. It's not fun to write. No one's interested in telling stories about this. So can we maybe not make her a full good guy, but can we push her into protagonist space a little bit?
And this story allows Bunn to do that.
Yes. It's just comparing the way he writes Emma here versus the truly insane writing in that Secret Empire story. It's night and day.
Yeah.
It is. Like,
she feels very in character here.
I feel for him. Miss Sinister just wants to use Mothervine to make more mutants because she's an evil mad scientist.
Yep. And this has all of the hallmarks of stuff that Cullen just clearly wanted to write about. We get appearances by Raksha, his Madripoor team of mutants.
Who all love Wolverine as Patch so much.
Yes, they know Patch as the, primary personality, not Logan, which is very funny. And
unfortunately for the Raksha,
they're gonna bite it because Malice is here to possess Polaris, but not just any Malice, Ultimate X-Men Malice.
I don't remember anything about Ultimate X-Men Malice. I'm going to be just completely honest. But because of Secret Wars, some Ultimate characters have come into this, including the it's Guardian, who was the guy with the wings, the Birdman armor, and Mach 2. I love Mach 2. We are going to be talking about some more Ultimate Comic X-Men later in the show, like in the future of the show. I already have it planned. So, Adam, if you don't know Mach 2, you'll learn that Mach 2 is great. She's the best. And she's like a Magneto fangirl, is what she is. So her going up against Magneto is an interesting choice that unfortunately Bunn both doesn't have the space for, nor does he have anyone remembering those comics to lean on to do this. So I see you, Cullen. I see what you're trying to do here. And I know whether you should or shouldn't do it for like economic storytelling reasons, you're going there, and I appreciate that.
So after they get past the Malice thing, we get the quote unquote new X-Men, right? The new X-Men Blue, led by Polaris. Raka's Gazing Nightshade is here. She's the one with the bleeding eyes. Shenzorn, Jimmy Hudson, Bloodstorm, and Dakin. All teaming up with Magneto to defeat, the team of villains that we talked about before, as there is this sort of, secondary mutation crisis happening across the globe. And,
because they're going to drop mothervines on everyone to restart the mutant population. Here's the bad thing about mothervine.
Is it very similar to a Terrigen bomb? Is it not?
It is.
Yeah.
Mothervine is it's the thing that created mutants in the Ultimate Universe, is what it is. Yep. More or less. It is the science experiment that made them that. It's giving mutants secondary mutations, but oh no, they are losing control of their powers and burning out. And it's that plot. Like we all kind of see where this is going. Magneto's like, I also don't want mutants to continue to be genocided, but this won't help. So I'm going to stop you. Also, they know that Magneto's going to stop him, so they're going after Magneto early. So Magneto assembles his team. And I love this team. You know how much I love weird teams of characters that should not smash together. And I don't even like half of these characters. But the fact that we have a team that Zorn is on and somebody's OC, that are like, everyone loves Gazing Nightshade, right? I'm putting her in anyway. I don't care.
Right.
Puts in his favorite character from Mutant X, who does nothing for this entire series. Cullen Bunn just wanted to put Bloodstorm in things, and I love that. Like, plus he gets to continue the stuff he was doing in both X-Men or Uncanny X-Men and in Magneto with Briar Raleigh.
Yeah, Briar has quite a bit of screen time here.
Yeah, because Briar's a weird character that more people should do things with. She's just she's wild. Anyway, big fights. They get big fights. Magneto wins. That's what it comes down to, right? Like, that's the story. Big fight. Magneto wins. But kind of cool the whole
much.
Time.
But it is telling that when we do flash to the 05 having, like a little vignette in space, it's so much less interesting. And I say that as, a fan of some 05 stories. I just think that by this point, and we're right on the edge of, what was it? Extermination is coming up. Very
in
soon.
fact, one of these comics has a prelude to Extermination in it.
Yeah. So like we're right there. And, you could just kind of tell everybody's kind of tired of that particular story arc, and Colin wants to tell something completely different, and he's having fun. So I don't know how it's not that it's unsuccessful. I think it's actually pretty well put together, especially given how fast this comic was coming out. It's very difficult to sort of wrap my brain around Axis flipped Havok and fixing him at the end of this, but they do it anyway.
They do,
because I don't like that version of the character.
Something Polaris, something Emma Frost, something fixed.
Sure, and they fix his face too along the way.
Did they fix his face, or was his face already fixed? And
No, he's not fixed. He's still wearing sort of like a Doom
Yeah,
like
but he's
metal
not wearing
plate.
it over his whole face, just like a little bit over the eye. So I don't know.
I don't know. It's inconsistent. It doesn't really matter.
Something mask off screen. Something.
Yeah. So regardless of like, how successful it is, I do appreciate that this does seem like Bun was doing what he wanted to do, playing with the characters he wanted to play with, and just, there's fun to be had with this arc. That's not that dissimilar from the Cross Time Caper X-Men Blue arc, which also seemed to
Yes.
be the other one that, he really seemed to be having a good time with.
X-Men Blue is weird because by the time that no one cares about the book, which is, I mean, that's saying that by X-Men Blue standards. By the time no one cares about the book, Cullen Bunn is having the time of his life.
Mm-hmm.
Because he does the Venom stuff, which he wanted to do part of, and it's not as great, but hey, he's trying something. And then he does another like wrap up story that is again like all from the perspective of this is what he wants to do with the book. And I like that a lot.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Like I can appreciate it when an author is putting their all into it and taking a swing, and maybe it doesn't work. And I don't think there's anyone who, unless you already have a vested interest in Mach 2 or which Zorn is doing what, then I mean, like, there's not a lot to tell you to read here. There is a part where Beak gets mothervined and he's mad because, oh no, I was hot and now I'm not anymore. So, like, if that appeals to you, then you know what you're getting into, and you're like, actually, this would be a fun one to check out. Otherwise, I mean, it's kind of nothing.
Yeah.
But it's kind of nothing in a way that I like.
Yeah, and it has a couple of really talented artists doing very fast work, but competent. If you want to see early RB Silva, or Marcus Toe does a nice job. He's not quite
Folks,
to the level.
If you want to know why, when Hoxpox was initially announced, I said to my friends, oh, they were kind of skimped on the art team for this, did they? It's because RB Silver was having to turn in work like this at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And I truly apologize. I was not aware of his game.
Yeah.
That's on me. Pepe, I should have known better. But again, he also leveled up.
So we have a really weird cross section of X-Men Blue on the list. So all the way up at 266, we have the Cross Time Caper, X-Men Blue 16 to 20. Then
that one's better.
All the way down at 827 and 847, we have two arcs of X-Men Blue, 10 to 12, Toil and Trouble, and
that's the fake Maddie one.
Yeah, 847 is X-Men Blue 7 to 9 Secret Empire. I would say this is better than both of those.
This is significantly better than both of those, which gives us a wild range. Okay, 568 is X Campus. This is better than X Campus.
I would agree. All right, so
I'm just like throwing darts at the board right now and seeing where things. Okay, and I can say pretty collectively. New X-Men Hellions at 505 is better than this, though.
Yeah.
So I think this is a 500s story.
I would agree.
That spiritually feels right.
I don't think... this is not that weirdly different than X Factor 103 to 105, the Malice arc in Hawaii. And
the one that Mr. Sinister was at, that he
yes.
was really at, and then left a clone of himself in a different room to argue with a fake version of the Black Womb.
Yes, as we talked about last week.
Okay, good. This is the same level of weird as that, but it's
this is better or worse than at 528, the Will Sportaccio Uncanny X-Men Into the Void.
Is Into the Void good? No.
Yeah, I don't know. You know what? This is not better than X Factor Forever at 529, though.
No, yeah, you're right. Yes, we're in the same general vibe. The last arc of Generation Hope, with like Kenji being a little freak, is better than this.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this is better than. Is this better than New Excalibur 1 to 3?
Yes.
Which is better than we think that New Excalibur should be.
Yeah, I would agree.
I would say put this between that or above that, below New Excalibur 6 and 7,
Mhm.
and above the X-Men versus the Avengers 1 through 4.
Okay. All right. So that's going to make our new 544 X-Men Blue Cry Havok. And that was a nice scope of Magneto's academic career. So
Turns out Magneto pretty bad at being a headmaster, all things considered. Real good at beating up fools. At being a headmaster, I'm going to give him a D.
yeah,
Like,
but
how many of his students die?
I will give an A to
One.
our Patreon patron for requesting this episode.
I'm going to give an A+ to Andrew. If you want to be like him, patreon.com/Battle of the Atom. Adam, what you got
Hey,
going on this week?
Well, while we're recording this, it hasn't happened yet, but while this is coming out, we will have just been tabling at Super Jersey Comic Expo. So I just want to thank anybody who stopped by and said hello. We were selling a bunch of stuff. Hopefully some people bought some stuff. I don't know. If you came by, thank you. It was nice to see you. For Comics XF, keep your eyes out. We did a fun piece about the Marvel swimsuit specials, which I want everybody to check out. And if you want to follow on social, Adam Rec on Blue Sky and Instagram. Zach, what are we doing next week?
Next week, we fight death.
Whoa.
What do we say to the god of death?
Not today,
Not
Satan.
today. We say not today. We say not today. Like that Game of Thrones season 1 guy. I forget his name. He died though.
Sure.
Till then, folks, this has been Battle of the Atom. We hope you survived the experience.
Get it!